Hello. This is Angela with Dr. Ray and Jean. Thank you all for joining us tonight for the first Connections virtual group webinar. So feel free to use the chat if you'd like to communicate, and we'll just wait for Dr. Ray and Jean. They'll be along shortly. And the chat is a great way to ask me any questions. You could always use the Q&A also, because if you have a really good question, we'd love for Dr. Ray and Jean to answer it. And while we're waiting for more people to hop on, I'll just let you know, I'm Angela. I'm one of the coaches with Couple Synergy, and here they are.
Hey.
Hi.
Hello.
Let's make sure that we got all our sound and everything. Can you hear us, Ange?
Yes, I can.
And
Awesome.
You can see us?
Yes.
Hopefully you can see us.
Right now we have 2 people joining us. So if you don't already have your video pinned, we'll make sure it is.
Great. We're going to
Thanks,
maximize
Ange.
our screen here too.
You know, so today we really want to talk about this interesting topic of happiness. And one thing I've always said is human beings are not designed to be happy. We're designed to grow. And so the way our brain works is as soon as we get something the way we want it, you know, say you remodel a room and you get everything how you want it. And then you sit down, you have a cup of tea and you think, well, what if the couch was over there? And that's how our brain works, because our brain wants to continue to grow. It doesn't want to just stay in this content, happy place.
So I'm going to just back up just a little bit.
You all right?
Because you're ready to jump in, but I wanted to kind of just introduce everybody. This is our first weekly webinar, and welcome to Connections. This is really an awesome community that we're building. I'm Dr. Ray. This is Jean with Couple Synergy. Some of you may recognize the background here. Some of you. We may have actually seen some of you, in sessions just recently. And if we haven't seen you in a while, then welcome back. But this background here is our meditation room in our house. Some of you may recognize it from some of the meditations we did during lockdown.
76 days.
76 days in meditation. And that was
we got a little silly.
A lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. If you guys haven't seen it, it shows a different side of both of us, I think, just a little bit. But yeah, this weekly webinar is going to be all about learning new skills, really new skills and new perceptions about, life and how to manage life. And given the climate of today, it's very well needed, right? We all need to, kind of learn from each other and, talk about new ways of connecting within and then connecting to each other.
And then you're going to see Angela, who is hosting for us tonight, and you can ask questions and she will get them to us and join us in the conversation. She is one of the coaches at Couple Synergy and, helps individual people and couples in the same way that we do.
So today's topic, we're going to be talking about happiness as a choice. Mm-hmm. And it is a choice. And as we talk about it, you'll see why. We're gonna talk about that, and then we're also going to do kind of a question and answer period. If you guys want to just throw in questions, that's fine. Angie's going to be kind of monitoring those questions as we go along. But we'll have a period of time that we can kind of interact with you guys and answer some of the questions you have. And then we're going to close out with a meditation, which we like to do.
So this topic is kind of around this concept that if you have a watch, you know what time it is. But if you have 2 watches, you can't really be sure, which is really scary to me because I have about 10 wind-up clocks. So we never know what time it is.
They all go off at different times, right?
So there's this concept called synthetic happiness, and I believe it works exactly in the opposite direction of synthetic unhappiness as well. And what they know is that when a person makes a decision and stays committed to that decision and invests in that decision, they're happy with their decision. But when a person makes a decision and questions it and doubts it and tries to put energy towards others, like other decisions, then they're very unhappy and they become even more unhappy with the choice that they've made. And there's a TED Talk. I forget the guy's name. Do you know his name?
I don't remember. He's a professor and scientist at Harvard University. And that's where this study actually was based out of.
And his TED Talk is why are people happy and why are they not? And one of the studies that they did, which was really interesting, is they had people come and take an art class. And then they said, pick your 2 favorite paintings. And they picked each person picked their 2 favorite paintings. And they said, okay, one of those paintings has to go to, the university to prove that you've taken this class. And the other one you get to keep. And so half of the people, they said, you have to choose your painting today and you can never change your mind. And the other half, they said, you have to choose your painting, but you have several days to change your mind. The other one's going to be here for like 4 days. So if you want to come back and, change it up, you can do that. And what they found over time, whether it was weeks or months, is the people that had to choose today and stick with their decision and didn't have the option to change again were much happier with their selection. They felt like they got the best one. They're happy. They never doubted it. They never questioned it. But the people who had the option to change, the option to try the other one again, always felt like they missed out. And how many times do we do that, right? Do we take this job? Do we marry this person?
Yeah, when it comes to relationships, sure. Yeah.
Well, interestingly, people in arranged marriages have much less divorce.
They have a less divorce rate, right?
Because it's not an option.
Yeah.
And so they don't look around the corner and go, well, maybe that would be better. They go, this is what I am and who I'm with. And I'm going to not just commit to this, but I'm going to dedicate myself to adding energy and infuse this relationship and make it work because I've chosen. And so that's one of the things that, unfortunately, I think that in our culture today, we don't get a toy, we get a collection. And that happens kind of across the board with so many things. We have such abundance that it loses its meaningfulness.
It actually paralyzes us when we have too many options. And now we start to have more anxiety about the choices that we're making. And then we also second guess ourselves. So now we're not trusting our gut and our gut instinct. And so now it's, the anxiety builds, and then we have this doubt about the choices that we made. Did I leave my job? I think we had a client just came in recently, was trying to decide, whether she was going to retire early, right? And so it's like, I'm going to regret if I retire early, or I'm going to regret if I don't, and so these choices and the second guessing and the anxiety that it centers around all of the choices that we make is happening widespread all across the board. And then now we are also, imparting that on our children, and they are having the same amount of anxiety and trepidation about making choices, and not sticking with it, not being committed to the choices that they make.
So here's an interesting concept. There's no such thing as a right choice.
What? What do you mean?
Or a wrong choice.
I thought there's a right choice and a wrong choice.
You cannot possibly choose wrong, and you can't possibly choose right, because that concept exists within the tribe. So in our tribe, we've agreed that we would drive on the right side of the road. So we do that because if we all agree on it, it brings a level of safety that makes us feel better. It's not because it's right. Certainly there's other tribes that drive on the left side of the road. And that might be a simplistic kind of example, but that's true. So many cultures have different things that they find are legal or illegal, or how we are in the world. And really, it's just a decision we all made as a group, and it's made up. But when we come to personal power and the things that are directly for your life, what job you should do and what food you should eat and what time you should go to bed and who you should marry, how many kids you should have, what's right for you, what's right for me, is completely different.
Right. And these are not logical decisions.
Right.
They're emotional decisions. I have a client who is in a relationship now. And up until this relationship, he had, a lot of commitment issues. He did not want to pursue, the relationship, further down the line. And so this is his first relationship where he's really feeling this desire to commit to this woman. And he is also finding that there is this self-doubt that's creeping in. The question that comes up in his mind is, what if there's someone else?
Mm-hmm.
Someone else out there in the world that is a better fit for me. What is that whole saying is like, um, one bird in the hand is
worth
two in the bush.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, we don't trust the fact that this emotional decision is saying that this is correct for me in this moment. We look to this logical way of making a decision and saying that, pros and cons. Well, maybe something better is going to be coming along down the line, right? And the problem with our thinking and our intellectual thoughts is that it is designed to debate. It's designed to take one position and then it's designed to take the other position, right? That's how our rational thinking works. It debates with itself over and over and over again. It doesn't necessarily make a decision, because when we're making a decision, it comes to our gut, to our emotional, part of ourselves. That's really where a decision is made. And we have disconnected from that so much so that we cannot make that decision from a place of certainty.
It's kind of funny when you see someone right before a really big decision, like getting married or going on a big hike or what college to go to. It's like you get right up to that moment where you still have an opportunity to change your mind, and what they call it, getting cold feet. And you're like, oh, I don't know if I should do this. But once you jump into that and once you cross that line and you make that commitment, all of that kind of goes away. And it actually is a much calmer, peaceful way to live than to keep going on about maybe this, maybe that. And we live in a culture that, people who want to sell us stuff are constantly trying to get us to change our mind. Maybe this, maybe that. This car, you should go for that car. You should, go for this meal or that meal or whatever. There's always a lot of that, as opposed to saying, I've made a decision. I'm going to stick with my decision. And I think ultimately there's a feeling of uneasiness with safety. So if we talk about our hindbrain, remember our hindbrain, that reptilian brain, it's only concerns our food and safety. And so it just sort of sits there. Well, if something keeps trying to grab its attention and say, well, this isn't safe, or this isn't safe, or this isn't safe, right? Everything isn't safe. And so we get a lot of anxiety, but we really don't know why. And so if you ask yourself today in this moment, am I safe? Am I physically safe? Am I about to freeze to death, starve to death, fall off a cliff? Is there a bear chasing me? I'm safe. And then you could just take a deep breath and settle into that I'm safe. Because when it comes into our emotional brain is going to respond the same way with fight, flight, or freeze as that reptilian brain. But when it's a reptilian brain, there literally is physical danger or not. And if there's not, fight, flight, or freeze goes away, shake it off, and you go back to a homeostasis of, living life and feeling good. But when you have an emotional threat, you're activating that same system of fight, flight, or freeze. And now we have so much access to opinions and information that we constantly are doubting ourselves. We constantly are turning away from that gut and asking ourselves out there, well, what does everybody else think? And, if you ask 5 people what they think, you're going to have 5 different thoughts about what you should be thinking. And so the answers are always within us. And when you trust that and you go with that, you're going to be much happier, because it's never about the car we drive, ever.
If you go with your emotional decision, your gut feeling, You will not have regrets.
Mm-mm.
You will not make a wrong decision. Even if things go badly, you're not going to kick yourself because you went with your gut feeling. If you go with your intellectual thought and intellectual decision, you will have regret. You will kick yourself. You will wonder about the what ifs,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that is a very painful and just life full of misery if you're going through life collecting all of these regrets. I should have, right? Should have, would have, could have. And if you listen to your gut, as we were talking about, you will not make a wrong decision. If you are on a cliff and a bear is chasing you and your life is in danger, you probably should trust that. All right. But most often we're getting a bill in the mail, right? Or we have someone that is driving and cutting you off in traffic. And these situations that we go through most often are not life-threatening, but it activates that fight, flight, freeze system that is designed just to sense danger and to protect you. So how do we do that? How do we actually get in touch with our gut, especially if we have disconnected from it for such a long time and we have tried to look at life from a very cognitive and intellectual perspective?
Well, one thing that Wayne Dyer said is that dead people are not flexible. Right.
Well, that's
So
rigor mortis, I think.
if you're alive, then there's flexibility. And when there's flexibility, then you're in the flow of life and you can change and move as life is happening. But we get these frozen images, right? We hear a story of, well, this person, when they were 6 years old, they knew they wanted to be this thing. And then they became very successful in life. And it looks so easy. It looks so perfect. It doesn't look like a journey. It doesn't look like flow. It doesn't look like, oh, I failed this test, or I didn't get into this school, or my mom doesn't believe in me, or all the things that we all go through. That's natural. That is all the things that the world tells us we shouldn't do. And the truth is, if we are here to seek approval, we're all going to probably sit in one place and just sort of shake, because that's not why we're here either. We're here to grow. We're here to learn. We're here to experience, which is why you can't choose wrong. Because if you choose this, you're going to learn this. And if you choose that, you're going to learn that. So either way, you're doing it. You're doing what you came here to do. But if you choose this and then you just keep looking over here, you're not doing anything. Or if you choose this because everybody else said you should choose it, you're not doing anything either, because you're not getting in touch with what you really feel. And so therefore, when you have another decision to make, you don't know how this thing works, right? So this is why we meditate. This is why we close our eyes and go inward, because when we close our eyes, we are accessing the part of ourselves that is physical, emotional, and subconscious. And it's always amazing in session. You ask someone to close their eyes, and they close it for a second, they pop their eyes right back open, like, it's scary in there. We love our distractions. We love to be distracted and not just sit and be and feel. And when things are going well in life, we trust it. Oh, when things are going well, like, oh, everything lined up. This is lovely. I wanted this job and I got this job. And then wouldn't you know it, this person said, here, have a car, or this is a good deal for a car. And everything sort of lines up. You go, I trust all the universe is working great.
Yeah, I am going to validate the fact that when you close your eyes and you try to meditate and tune inward, it is a scary thing, right? Especially if you haven't been connected, to your inner self for a very long time, and you're trying to find the answers out here, right? From other people, get everyone else's opinions, or research as much as you can, or, try to figure out here what the right decision is for yourself. You disconnect from that gut, right? And your inner self. And so when you first try to do that, it is a very scary thing. It's very overwhelming. It's like, the floodgates open up, and all of a sudden, all of your inner thoughts, inner feelings, the things you've been trying to hold back, they come rushing at you. And for a lot of people, it's a very uncomfortable feeling. And if you stick with it, you're going to clear away all of that and be able to get to more of a flow, right? This is something we talked about with a couple the other day, and that flow is healthy, right? If you're walking in the woods and you wanted to get a drink of water, you came across a pond and you came across a running brook, you're going to drink from the running brook because the running brook is self-filtering. And because of that flow, it is healthier than drinking from a stagnant pool of water. Well, that concept, it's reiterated throughout our entire life, and every facet in that flow is so much healthier for us. Within ourselves, if we don't find that flow, if we aren't able to connect inward, we're not able to understand who we are in the moment, consistently, moment by moment, there's no way we're going to be able to show up wholly in our relationships. There's no way we're going to be able to show up with our kids and be able to be fully present with them. There's no way we're going to be able to show up fully present in our jobs and our careers and put out 100% of ourselves, right? So this work is absolutely essential in order to find that right choice for ourselves, which is always within.
And
So our
Dr. Ray
emotion-
and Jean,
Yeah.
sorry. Actually, while you are on the topic of trusting your gut, and Dr. Ray, you mentioned about, how we interact with our children, right? And sort of teaching our children these things. We do have a question. So the question is, how can we encourage our children to make choices with their gut, right? Because so much of our focus is on teaching them to make decisions based on data.
Yeah. That's a really great question. And unfortunately, there's so much out there that is going against teaching our kids how to connect internally, right? We were having a discussion with Jean's sister last week or something like that. She has her kids in the Waldorf school. It's very kind of like Montessori, Waldorf. They're all kind of within the same kind of genre, I should say, of schools. And one thing that they teach is that self-exploration, right? To learn kind of being in the moment. And, I think that is something that's really lost in a lot of our kids today, is that there isn't much play anymore. There isn't any creativity. There isn't any exploration. And so what we do is we try to bubble wrap them. We try to protect them from a lot of the threats that are absolutely out there in this world. But it doesn't allow them the ability to explore within themselves. What is it they feel in the moment, and what is it that they need, and how do they connect with what is truth, right, and authentic for them?
Kids are born with wisdom, just like you are. Your gut is 100% accurate. And it's really important to teach your kids how to trust that. I remember when our son was young, he would do something. Maybe he did something that was hurtful to another person. And we would ask him, what does that feel like in your heart? Does that feel heavy? Does it feel light? Does it feel dark? And once he could kind of feel that, what it felt like for him, then we would ask him, and what would it feel like for you to make that light again? How would you correct that? And he always had an answer. He always came up with something that he was going to do that would make that feel better, right? And so allowing kids, the whole concept of choice requires that they actually have to take responsibility for what they choose.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say, your child wants something, give them a lot of parameters too, because they need that. Here, we're going to go to this store. You have $3 to spend, choose. And whatever they choose, don't let them change their minds. Let them hold that responsibility for whatever they've decided, and they will learn that synthetic happiness, that they did choose the best one, and they won't sit there and go, oh, I'm bored with this after 30 minutes. What else do we got? What else do we got? What else do we got? And that is kind of like the energy of our culture now. Instead of saying, no, if you're going to choose this, you're going to see this through till the end. And, that is, it's probably why marriage, long-term marriage, is so difficult and so rewarding, because when it gets tough, you don't just trade it in for someone else. You work through it. And as you work through it, you grow and you become, and all the energy that takes, including the painful energy, leads to a lot of happiness and a lot of peace down the road. It's true with anything, they're investments. So trust your kids, let them make some of their own choices, and have them stick with it when they do.
Yeah, and you can, start with things that are not really impactful to their future.
What they're going to eat.
What they're going to eat, or, what they're going to wear. I mean, I think a lot of parents, they get into this power struggle about what the kids are going to wear, in the morning. And, the kids are kind of torn between what they're going to decide as well. Right. But if we can't make decisions from what we're going to wear in the morning, then how are we going to make decisions about later on in life when decisions really matter, like driving and, in college and, et cetera. I'm just living a life that, part of society. So it's important for us to be able to create a space for our kids so that they can start to explore and really start to learn to trust their gut. They do come out of the womb trusting their gut. And unfortunately, society and all of the adults, surrounding our kids, we confuse them with a lot of different messages. Like, you should listen to this person and listen to that person. And, there is something to say with, about being able to listen to authority and respect authority, but you have to help them connect with their gut and not disconnect from it. It's like what a lot of us adults are trying to do is reconnect, because we've disconnected because of what society has told us and what the rules have told us and how we should be living our life. So if we get, jump on the gun and we're able to help our kids stay connected, that's the best thing we can do.
Well, one more thing I would want to say about that is there are certain things that grow as we give them away. So when we give love, it grows. When we give happiness, when we share a smile, those things grow. And to help your kids learn to think about others. Yeah, I see so many families where they receive presents as children, but they never learn to give presents. They don't have to sit and think. And, when I was a little kid, we got maybe $1.50 allowance. And I had at the time 6 siblings, and we had to go and buy everyone Christmas presents, so you might get an eraser or something like 5 cents. But you had to go and think, and you had to go, okay, I've got to think about other people besides myself. And there's such a great amount of happiness in doing that. Way, way better, than ever all this receiving that we do. And then we're not so satisfied with what we receive.
That's a really great question. And, when we're talking about happiness, we're talking about relationships, I think that's the awesome thing about couple synergy and this, this group called Connections, in that we are addressing so many topics and so many issues that, permeate throughout all of our relationships. I mean, that's really what our life is about. We don't live in a cave isolated by ourselves. We interact with people in our lives. And, the relationship that we have with our spouse is one relationship, a very powerful one. But the relationships that we have with our kids and with our parents and with our siblings and friends, and it takes a certain bit of navigation, to be able to have happy and healthy, rewarding relationships. Choice is part of it. And choosing to be happy is something that we all have the power to do.
And one of the easiest things to do is to make someone else happy, because you can't possibly be unhappy while you're making someone else happy. And so one of the things we want to work on today when we meditate is that emotions are made of energy, and the nature of energy is movement. And so any emotion that we're feeling that is overwhelming or painful or scary, we try to slow it down and freeze it or stop it. When that happens, that energy goes right into our thinking, and we get mental activity, and we sit there and we try to think our way out of it, and we think this side of the problem and that side of the problem, because that's what our brain does, right? And so what we would really rather encourage you to do, and this works with your kids as well, sit in your feelings, because any emotion that you allow to flow will find balance.
Just a little tidbit of information. We have emotion first before we have thought. And a lot of people don't know this, but the way that our brain develops in utero, it develops from the spinal cord up, and then the brainstem, and then our emotional brain before our prefrontal cortex, where we have rational thinking. So anytime that we have a thought, we had an emotion first. Okay. And you just think about that. Think about that. We have an emotion first before we have a thought, which means that if we are not aware of that emotion, we have disconnected from it. And it does take a slowing down. It takes that, turning inward and really taking a look at what was the feeling that I had before that thought. What was that emotion that came up? Was it fear? Was it sadness? Was it embarrassment? Was it, happiness and joy? And that is really our guide. That is, I use the analogy of dials and lights on a dashboard. Our emotions, each one serves a function. And when that light goes off on the dashboard, it's telling you something, right? It's giving you information. And if we ignore it, just like if you ignore the lights and dials on a dashboard, you're going to have a big problem down the line, right? So tuning into what that information is giving us, that is really what helps guide us in making decisions, not just getting data, right? Data can help support that emotional decision, but it's truly not going to help you make that, decide.
So this idea of we have emotion first, and anyone who has been around baby knows that, right? They just emote. It doesn't matter if they're being appropriate or inappropriate. If they're happy, they're giggling, and if they're not, they're screaming. Doesn't matter if they're irritating other people. And so as we develop and grow, and this is about the age of 4, where we start to get more cognition, and we can sort of contemplate like, oh, if I do this, I'm going to feel this way. Or if I do that, I'm going to feel that way. If I do this, it's going to hurt someone or not hurt someone. And this is where emotional regulation and discipline come in. And so many times we see today that we just want to be right instead of being kind. And a lot of times parents will protect their children from taking responsibility and apologizing, taking responsibility for their part of whatever the conflict is. Because whenever there's a conflict, it's not one person that's guilty, it's both, it's always that way. And when we take that responsibility for our own actions, there's such a gift in that, because what it does is it says, I don't have to take responsibility for the other person's actions. I know what's mine and what's theirs. And I can now choose how I respond to the situation I'm in, as opposed to I need to go get that person to control what they're doing so that I feel better. And so it's always about taking responsibility for each choice, and then learning from, I took that responsibility, I'm staying disciplined with what I chose, and this is what I felt from that. And maybe next time I'll choose different because I don't like that feeling. Or maybe next time I'm going to choose this again because I really did. But every time we protect ourselves from our feelings and just rush back to comfort without really having a resolution, we miss the whole point. We miss the whole lesson.
Mm-hmm. Growth is not painless.
Right.
Right. In fact, we need pain in order to grow and get to that next level and evolve. And so if we're trying to avoid pain with every decision we make, we're going to find ourselves just running away from the lessons that we are supposed to learn. And so that is, sometimes we just need to lean into it.
All the time.
all the time.
Not so much fun,
Right.
but that's why you guys are here listening to this right now, is because you want to feel better and you want to become and you want to grow. And our emotions are one of the ways we do that, but we have to allow the life events we've had and that have happened to us to decompose, just like fertilizer,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Just like fertilizer is going to help grow some really pretty flowers. It's kind of messy until they start to grow, right? And we can't grow until we really sit in it and let it decompose and really integrate what's happened to us throughout our lives, whether it was self-imposed, whether it was the life coming at us, doesn't really matter. Every single thing that's ever happened to us has happened. You can't undo that, but you can integrate it and you can help it find a better space. And when you help it find that space, you grow a little and you grow a little and you grow a little. And so life is messy, relationships are messy, parenting is messy. It's supposed to be. It's supposed to be that way because we are not designed to be happy. We're designed to grow.
One of the things that they talked about in that study in Harvard was if you were to try to predict whether someone who won the lottery or someone who became a paraplegic, who would be happier in their life. And it was very interesting because the data came back. They actually had data on this. It came back that people who won the lottery and people who were paraplegic actually were just as happy in their life. And so is it a choice? And I think that when we say that, choosing happiness, I think some people might think that all you need to do is just choose to slap a smile on your face and walk around and just be impervious to anything negative. And I don't think that's the case. I don't think you have to walk around life, just kind of being, in ignorance, right? Ignorance is bliss, and just pretending or faking to be happy. But it is a mindset, and if you are releasing the outcome and you are letting go of this need to be right or wrong in the decisions that you make, then you will be happy if you are making a decision from your gut, because there is no right or wrong. You are learning something in the process. Even if that thing that you're learning is painful, you're going to see the reward. You're going to see the meaning and purpose.
One of the things I want you to think about is, in the last year or two of your life, what was a really big decision that you had to make, or something that happened to you that was really painful or unfair? And what happened to that thing? What happened to that job you didn't get, or I don't know, all the things that happen in life, and they just resolve themselves. And you know what we do? We just get busy worrying about something else. And so that's the question, right? The question is, if the event that happens is going to resolve at some point and your life is going to move on, the choice is, do I worry about it for 7 months? Do I worry about it for 7 days? Do I worry about it for 7 hours? Or do I worry about it for 7 minutes? And one of the quickest ways to shorten that time is by talking it out. Because when we're stuck in our head and we're bouncing back and forth between these two things of decisions or whatever it is, we can't help but feel crappy. And there's so many sessions that I've done with people that their thinking is just so off, and they're so hard on themselves, and they really feel like they've done something bad or something bad has happened. And then you take a step back and you sort of help them normalize that, and they go, oh, well, I guess I am doing the best I can given the situation I'm in right now. And it's okay. It's not the end of the world, and it's not the make it or break it thing. Life isn't like that. It doesn't happen in these big moments. It's just kind of okay, and we're just kind of being there. And when you can settle into that, then you can be happy because you're not carrying such a heavy load. Right?
Yeah.
Want to do some meditating?
Well, let's see if there are any questions first before we go into meditation.
There are no questions at this time, but you know what? We just launched a poll, and it is
Great.
asking everyone what kind of groups they would be interested in. As you all are continuing to do this every Tuesday, but also the Couple Synergy Connections page is going to be updated, and we're going to have a lot of stuff coming in. So having everybody right now at the webinar answer, just give us a little bit of an idea of which kind of group would interest you, or multiple groups, would really help us, Dr. Ray and Jean, develop those.
Thanks, Angie. That's awesome. Yeah, these are some ideas that we have of workshops that we would like to offer. So we want to make sure that you are on those lists to get the information when we're offering them.
And is there a place, Ange, that they can put any suggestions, or should they email us any suggestions on groups that may not be listed?
Yes. So what you could do, if you have certain groups, any suggestions, you could always type it into the chat. Or yes, you are welcome to go ahead and send us an email. And that would go to connect@couplesynergy.com. And I'll put that in the chat too.
I think there was a suggestion there in the chat box about blended
Yes.
families. Absolutely. That is a really great topic. We definitely will talk about that. Gina and I, we actually have a blended family of our own, so we can kind of talk from a very personal perspective on that. And blended families is the #1 family structure in the United States.
Yeah, 60% of kids do not live with both biological parents.
Yeah, so that's a great topic. We definitely will do a webinar on that topic.
There was a recent podcast we just did with the blended family with Greg and Italia.
Yeah.
And they really talk about how they work through, figuring those kind of things out in a way that I think really mimicked a lot of the things that we experienced. So that's a really good one. And in that situation, she had a child coming into the marriage, and he had no children coming into the marriage. And, the dynamics of her single parenting and having to shift to co-parenting is really interesting in that podcast.
So yeah, tune in, because we definitely are going to cover all of these topics. And if you have any suggestions, please email us. And if you haven't listened to our podcast too, tune into that. It airs every Monday. A new episode comes out, and you can listen to our podcast pretty much anywhere you can get podcasts.
Couple Synergy, Real Couples, Real Stories is the title of the podcast.
Yes. And if you want to go directly into our website, you can go to go.couplesynergymethod.com/podcast, and that will take you to our podcast page where all of our episodes, I think we have 128.
Wow.
As of yesterday, 128 episodes, and over 45,000 subscribers in over 100 countries. So it's we cover a lot of different topics in that.
All right.
And it's really great that you're about to meditate, because so far most of our listeners right now are most interested in physical healing through hypnosis and in-depth study of meditation. So whenever you're ready.
That's really fabulous. And that concept of physical healing through meditation and hypnosis, it's a really big deal, because it's in our energy field long before it's in our body. And mostly we don't wake up until it's in our body. I don't know. We're just stubborn and kind of designed that way. And, doing the work it's not easy. It's not easy at all. And you don't feel the results while you're doing it. You feel it gradually through time, just in the same way you got sick gradually through time. And it is a profound way to not just help your body get into an optimal place for healing, but also to grow through the challenges that you have in your physical body that are also here to teach us some pretty big lessons.
We have been meditating for years, and if there is a way for it to become easier, if someone knows that, please let us know, because it just doesn't. And there are gonna be times that it comes easier. There are gonna be times you feel like you're in the groove, and then there are times you just feel like it's an arduous task, you know. But absolutely, this is a great topic too, and we will definitely have probably several webinars on that.
Are you doing the gong?
Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
So get in a comfortable position and just gently close your eyes. And just for a moment, allow the past and the future to fall away. And become very aware of where you are. On earth. In the home that you're in the town you live in the body you live in. Be here now. Everything else is unimportant. And as you breathe, just observe. Don't change or control your breathing. If your breath is short, let it be short. If it's long, let it be long. And as you're focusing on your breath, just imagine saying to yourself, hello. And as you focus on your breath, be aware of how much of you belongs to someone else, someone else's thoughts or ideas of who you should be or what you should do. The they that lives in your brain. And imagine a circle in 2 feet in every direction around you. This is your personal space. And imagine at the top of the circle is a vacuum. And allow that vacuum to pull out all the energy that doesn't belong to you personally. What others think, what others decide. And as you contemplate that idea of releasing the energy that belongs to others, or maybe you feel afraid to let that go and you want to hang on to it. Whatever you're experiencing, give it an emotional name. You can have one emotion or several. And see those emotions as colors. For some of you, it may be very easy to let go. And for others, it may be very scary. Whatever you feel, just be with it. And when you've released as much of other people's energy as you choose, allow the vacuum to go away and your energy field to close up in that area. And contemplate what it means to detach. To detach is very different than to let go. Letting go feels like holding on to something with a tight fist and simply opening up your hand and allowing that thing to fall away. But detaching is very different. It's like walking through a field and getting burrs on your clothes. And as you try to pull off one section of the burr, it attaches somewhere else. And just contemplate for a moment what you would actively like to detach from in your life. It may be intellectual concepts. It may be emotions. It may even be control. And as you contemplate this idea of detachment, notice what happens in your energy field. As you detach or think about detaching, does it make you feel tighter, clinging, fearful? Or do you feel softening, opening, and powerful? Whatever you're feeling is exactly where you should be in this place in your healing. The number one goal of meditation is to become an observer of yourself. Don't worry about feeling comfortable or relaxed. Just observe. As you observe, you become more and more aware at a subtler and subtler level what your emotional guidance system is trying to tell you. As you contemplate the idea of detachment, don't reach for anything, just be. Just notice. Observe what sticks to you. Observe what you can easily get rid of. Notice what it feels like in either direction. And now we're going to practice something that will help you focus on exactly where you're feeling something. Don't worry about words or naming things. Just observe. Bring your awareness to the top of your head, a quarter-size space, and just observe what's there. Do you feel any pressure? Any movement? Any tingling? Any temperature? Or do you feel nothing at all? And now move out and observe inch by inch around that circle. Just observe whatever you feel. Don't try to change or control it. Just observe. Each time you come around the circle, move out another inch as you scan and observe around your entire head. Just seeing what's there. When you finish scanning your head, scan your neck and over your shoulders. Notice any pressure, temperature, movement. Scan down your arms. Just observing what's there. Scan down the front of your torso and the back of your torso. Feel the weight of your body as you scan down your legs, all the way to your toes. Just be aware of how you carry your energy, how you feel right now in this moment. And bring your awareness back to your breath. And as you breathe, be aware of the center of your chest, a place we call the high heart center. And breathe into this place as you remember who you are before your life experiences, before any wounds, underneath the pain. Be aware of a beautiful white light that is your innocence, your goodness, your truth. And choose to allow that light to shine, illuminating your body, the room you're in, the building you're in. Allow your light to emanate through the town, the state, the country, and the world. And as you sit in this bright white light, silently say to yourself, I choose happiness. I choose to give happiness. I choose to receive happiness. May all beings be happy. And know that through time, you will continue to resonate more and more to the vibration of happiness. Each time you allow yourself to feel and learn from and grow through all of life's experiences. Bring your attention back to your breath. Say to yourself, I'm safe. I'm okay. And I choose happiness. And when you feel centered and present, gently open your eyes. It's a wonderful way to end hanging out with you guys. This video that we recorded, this video will be available for you in the library section, and that will be true every Tuesday. So if you have to miss, you can come at a point during the week and catch up.
And if any of you join us for our meditations during the lockdown, you know that our dog has a very hard time meditating. And so you may hear her snore or make sounds in the background, especially when we're meditating. Right, Jasmine? Yes. You're always doing that.
So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
We'll see you guys. Take care.
Good night, everyone.